What up, everybody? This is the one and only D today to the VEYD, Davey D. That's me. And you're tuned in to ADP.FM. Peace, y'all. I'm a DJ for all occasions. I came up at a time where I started off doing hip-hop DJing, playing a lot of that up at the Cal campus, and quickly learned I could make a lot of money doing the frat parties. So I got into new wave and all that, so I became very versed at playing that type of music. It got to a point where I had to change my name. So it was Davey D, did the hip-hop stuff, and New York, LA Connection did all the other stuff. Because people go, I know who you are, can you play this music? And it's like, yeah, I know all this, Thomas Dolby and all that, but I was doing a lot of those frat parties like 3 days a week, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. It was fun. Quiet as kept, they listened to a lot of the same music, except they wanted to hear some of their rock stuff. And so, for a good 5, 6, 7 years, I was doing all the frats, and that just made me well-versed in being able to speak these other musical languages. And then over the years, became a thing of expanding, like sometimes I did the Chinese dances, a lot of times I did the Latin dances, just have a wide range. I often tell people, you look at my vinyl connection, because I do have vinyl, I probably have as much new wave as I do hip hop. You can see, there's shelves and shelves of all that stuff, all them 12 inches, Depeche Mode, all them folks. I have all the records, but I also, hip hop is where I come out of. Funk is big, people really getting back into the old school funk, so there's a lot of parties I do where I'm playing a lot of that. Backyard barbecues is huge. And there's backyard barbecues and there's poolside picnics. 2 different crowds, right? So you learn to play for both of them. One wants John Bovey, the other one wants Frankie Beverly. That's about it, man. Music is everything. And the art of DJing is being able to kind of feel out your crowd, give them a memorable experience, and have fun while you're doing it. I don't take myself super duper serious. I'm not one of these DJs that's like, don't tell me what to play. I take the requests, because that's what makes me grow, There are things, I think I know a lot, but there's hella stuff I don't know. And as I get older, I find that the younger generation, because I do a lot of their parties, and they come up with stuff that you're like, really? Get some brother with a gold tooth, yo, you got that pink Pinterest? And it's like, really? So, so you just gotta be prepared. And then, you got some Buffy looking, girl from Los Altos and she wants hardcore drill, So you can't judge the book by their cover anymore because everybody customizes their musical taste, and it's fun to try and figure that out where they're coming from. When I did the black parties up at Cal, it was pretty cut and dry, right? Except the music range was wide. So they wanted a lot of funk, but they also wanted all that electronic up-tempo stuff, right? So in a night, you might play Roger and Zapp and Rick James and end up playing Egyptian Lover. And for a period of time, they were listening to a lot of Latin freestyle, No Sarah and all that. But it was pretty consistent. They wanted to dance, right? And so that wasn't so much of a curve. And also I came up under somebody. There was a guy named Ben Gold who DJ'd a lot of the parties. And when I first got out there, I used to tag along with him. So I learned, how he was doing it. And I figured out the formula or the format. Doing the frat parties, that was a whole other thing. So it wasn't so much a curve as much as it was really understanding the depth of where folks were coming from, right? And understanding we like rock, but we also want to hear, they used to call it beat back in the day. We want some of that beat, right? So, so you had to, really, you want to hear this too? And it's like, yeah, and so if there was a curve, it might have been seeing some of the folks from Sigma Nu were listening to Roger and Zapp just as much as the alphas were on the campus, right? Except they wanted me to follow that up with, a Depeche Mode song or a Human League song, while the other group wanted me to go into another Rick James. So just learning to speak those languages became fun, and I think over time, things have meshed together, right? Early on, I was probably one of the first DJs playing house out here. Big shout out. So Johnny Stake and Nate Copeland were the ones that were playing house a lot. There was a guy named Michael Dunham. They were playing house early on, especially Johnny and Nate. They would be at Ramona's and playing for people in the Army base. And for me, coming from New York, I knew that house in New York club was black music. Out here, people were like, no, it isn't, right? So it was interesting to see, like, Bay Area folks didn't want to hear, but everybody else who was on these Army bases did want to hear it. So I started playing that on some of my radio shows and things like that. And that was a challenge, you know, to try and get an audience that you were playing to really get into house. Now it's universal, you know, you play house and not miss a beat in a lot of places. But seeing that evolution was good. And I bring that up because when I started doing mixes on KMEL, I was doing the 2 o'clock slot. And the 2 o'clock was catching people outside the clubs. And then at 3 o'clock was the house show. So all those mixes started off with hip hop and stuff from the clubs, and it ended up house. So being able to go from genre to genre was always fun for me. And, you know, nowadays, you know, you can go house to piano and, you know, Afro beats, and then, you know, you got people playing Brazilian stuff, and, you know, it's all over the place, and people play their own stuff now. You know, a lot of people just make their own music, and so that's in the mix as well. If you was at a club, the clubs change. So when I went to a club, if I DJ'd a club, you drink and lounge, right? So you gotta kind of adjust your taste, and you can't take it personally. It's like, man, I played all these records and they just stood around on their phone. That's how they are. At first I thought it was me, till other DJs started talking about the same thing. So that's a change in terms of what are you gonna play? So there might be some B-side cuts. You know, you're not gonna hit them with the same up-tempo stuff for the entire hour. So you're arranging peaks and valleys, right? You're taking people on a musical experience, hopefully, and they enjoy what you're offering. I like opening. Opening's always the best. One thing that I learned over the years, because people are like, I'm gonna do peak time, I'm gonna open. You know why? Because the organizers and the people that are there and the staff that's there, and you play for them. And you get, I gotten hella gigs out of that. Man, I really like what you were doing. You know, thank God you were there to play all that, because once the crowd starts, you know, they're gonna play all that bullshit that I don't like. So you can get to range and do all the stuff that you want, and you usually get a longer set, right? So I'm like, you close, I'm open, right? Because for me, it's not about, oh, it's Davey D on the turntables. I think I can hang with most, but it's really about having fun with what you're doing, you know, getting paid decently, and being able to generate more gigs based upon that. So, you know, there's people that hire and there's people that come to the club. I'll play for the people that hire. You know, thing that I told people, like, over the pandemic, I didn't do Twitch, right? I just made custom mixes for everybody because I had a client list. And, you know, it was cool, nothing wrong with that, but it was like, hey, Miss Jalen, your birthday's coming up and you can't even go out. I made a mix for you and your family so you could play that. Oh, thank you, Dad. Here's a couple of dollars, thank you. You know, hey, y'all gonna have a little thing, you know, with your office, here you go. So I started making these custom mixes for everybody. It might have made at least 500, right? So that kept me busy. And that was also challenging because now it's like, what are your songs? And somebody it's like, oh, I like cumbias, and I like salsa, and I like merengue, and I like that. I had nothing to do, so let me go learn these genres and give them a tape, and they were very thankful. They could walk around, they could jog, work out with it, and they didn't have to worry about me being on Twitch and talking over the music, right? Twitch had its function because it was a community, but it was also people that just wanted to hear the music. And so I did that a lot, and that helped me expand, you know, my genres, because now I was directly talking to people, and even if they hired me to do something and asking them what they personally wanted, it was often different. Well, you know, at the office, we got to play Bon Jovi, right? But at their personal taste would have been over here. You got some Roy Ayers and some Stevie Wonder, and, you know, not the Roy Ayers that they play all the time, the deep album cut. Well, you know what, let me go do a mix for you on that, you know, and get that to you, and then they come back and be like, can you do this? And so it kept me busy. I think it made me a much, much better DJ. Get clean copies. I tell people all the time, I've seen people lose gigs. I've seen people get turned off. I've seen folks lose before they even start. Because most of the time, very few are gonna be doing clubs. Rooftop, well, even if you're doing rooftop parties and all, read the room. You're in a nice swanky hotel and you got the B word and the N word going all the way through. Some people can get away with that, but somebody else is like, I just wanted to sit here and talk with my date and I gotta hear this, right? And the energy can change, so get clean copies. And I tell artists, make clean copies. I won't play a lot of dirty stuff. I might play some here, but a lot of times I won't, because I'm in environments, I was doing residency at restaurants and things like that. They don't want to hear it, Somebody else can come in there and be like, well, this is what the artist wanted, but that's not what the people wanted. So get radio edits or clean edits would be one thing. See what the women are into. My wife and my daughter are the best gauges for me. My wife ain't feeling it, then it ain't happening, right? My daughter, she's at the age where she's like, yeah, that's, she's a music head too, so I listen to them. And if you're around, you see if the women ain't clapping or stomping their feet and nodding their head, change pace. If the brothers is like, yeah, that's just shit right there, and women are kind of like, all right, he says suck a dick 70 times. I don't know if I like that. Maybe you need to, it depends. I'll play for the women. I'll try to make sure their palates are satisfied, musically speaking. People often ask why I have a controller. I'm not gonna name the spot, but me and the homie, we were doing a club, and every time we came, turntables were busted all the time, and just started bringing the controller. And I've done so many gigs where equipment wasn't working, but I have my thing, right? One time there was a whole concert and the turntables melted, right? And it was like, can we use your controller? Sure, so in between sets I got to do all those things. But I just got used to it and it became very convenient for me. Now I travel, so I've been, I've gone to other places and just put it in my bag and go, right? Be in my hotel room and play. Take it to school where I teach. And what I tell people is that the new technology just means that you have different ways in which you can be creative. I got carpal tunnel and all kind of stuff, so I never will be able to scratch like a D sharp or something like that. I don't try to do that, right? But there's other ways to be creative. And I'd be able to get everybody to sing a song, with every cut. Those other DJs can do that. But there's no rules to the game, one. Two, have fun with what you're doing. Two, and every device that you have, your computer, your vinyl, your turntables and all the various forms of turntables they have now, the drum machines, drum kits, all that, even with the AI, it's all opportunities to be creative. Pam the Funktress played on a control a lot, and one thing that she told me, she said, learn the equipment. There's a lot of things that and she was like, if you hit this, you can do these things. And if you do that, you could do this. And it's like, because for a long time I was just trying to play the controller as a substitute for a turntable, right? But she's like, nah, you already know how to do that, right? And that's a whole other skill set, right? That you can master, but if you're not gonna be using it, you better learn your equipment, You wanna learn it so you can be creative, but you also wanna learn it in case something breaks down, right? So what happens when it breaks? What happens when, like one time I did a gig and it got real hot. And I was like, I didn't realize it's like all of a sudden stuff was not working, right? So now you gotta figure this out. Okay, this is not working, what do I do, right? And you're trying to repair things on the spot, right? And I figured out, okay, it's the heat. But before then, you still had to play songs and you couldn't be telling the audience because it's like 200, 300 people there. Like, by the way, folks, this thing's about to crap out, right? So, you get on the mic, everybody clap your hands as you're sitting there like, okay, I'm gonna play one song at a time until I can figure it out. Then I'm gonna hook it up onto the phone. And then I figured it out and you played it seamlessly. Like, people didn't know. Like, we're gonna take a slow break. Y'all go to the bar, put on your little slow records, the 15-minute Earth, Wind and Fire record while you're like figuring it out. And then when it cooled down, I realized what was happening. or sometimes buttons will be hit and you know how to readjust them. So learn your equipment. I don't play for other DJs. I think that's the biggest mistake that you can do. We all have anecdotal stories. You know, like I think I told you, I was playing at the Miranda and somebody came over like, oh, I'm old school, you playing with the controller. I got, I do vinyl. And then he didn't realize, like, I got 2 warehouses, literally 70,000 records. I got records. I just don't want to, at my age, to do what? So another DJ can go, man, he was playing vinyl. No, somebody wants to hear the new, Miami, if you're at a club, they want to hear that. If it ain't on vinyl, I better have the record, right? So people can dance, and I'm not gonna be, well, I'm playing only vinyl, so I'm gonna play the old school Planet Rock. No. We pay 10, 15 bucks, play what we want, and it's available for me, right? And I'm not gonna spend $30 on records that I don't really like, which is the price. Now, vinyl DJs, that's an art form, that's good curation. There's some people that I know that are incredible with it, but I don't play for them. And I don't expect them to play for me, right? I don't walk up there and go, how come you don't got 3 copies of, or the newest remix? No, they know how to work their tool and their craft, and they can get busy, and so you allow them that lane. And I think new DJs, when they try to impress other DJs, you're gonna do it at your own peril. You better impress the people that's in front of you, that's eating dinner, that's trying to get on the dance floor, and and trying to have a good time. Now, if you want to do a DJ competition, you want to be like my man Lazy Boy or one of them cats, and even him, if you ever hear him spin, he ain't trying to play for other DJs. He can rock a party, like Apollo or Shortcut, and those guys can rock parties. But if you want to battle, they have a other skill set that they can bring to the table, and that's where you do that. But it ain't for me to be at a club, like, let me see if I can No. Play for your audience and leave them happy. Let them go. Good job. That to me is the best satisfaction. I would say Alex Mejia has a really good ear. He's the one that brought a lot of us into KMEL, and he was very disciplined. Glenn Oury is pretty dope. D Sharp is one of my favorite DJs. Lady Ryan is one of my favorite DJs. Rich Medina gets busy. K-Sly down in LA gets busy. Slowpoke down in LA gets busy. So there's a lot of DJs. I think it all depends. There are DJs that I put in my rider, like I have a rider, you don't want to follow, right? So DJs you don't ever want to follow. Dave Harness. If Dave Harness is on the ticket, you go before. In fact, try to go 2 DJs ahead, right? You don't want to be the one that's like, nah, let me follow him. Don't do that. That's a rule. Don't let Dave Harness close the night out, and don't you be the one. Now, somebody like a Day Don, Cold Flow, somebody, they'll take it in a different direction, right? But you don't want to follow Dave Harness. You don't want to follow CJ Flash, right? Especially if he's in his sweet spot. Let him do his thing, because he will do that feel-good music stuff, and he will find stuff that you be like, okay, he just did Frankie Beverly, all these album cuts I didn't even know existed, and here you come with Come I Let Go, and people are gonna be like, don't follow him, right? Let him close. So there's some of those DJs. D Sharp, if he's on one, let him do his thing, let him close out. It's all right, open up, let him close, right? Lady Ryan, if she's on one, because she's a sing-along, I call her sing-along queen. She'll play records and have people sing along. Like, we did a Prince party the other day, and sure enough, she's like, I don't know, these Prince records, she was using my crates, right? And she, had people sing along like 6 in a row, My friends was coming up and going, move over, let's take a picture with Lady Ryan. So, try not to follow her if you can help it. So I say that with respect. Those are DJs I like, and they get busy. Day Don is another one, I'll let him do his thing. If you ever do a country party, which I did by accident, do not cut the records off. Country folks are just as serious about their music as everybody else. And I remember this one night I went to this club in Fremont called the Saddle Rack. We were doing an event the next week. So Alex, who was putting it on, but he goes, why don't you go down there and do like a little set and then, you know, warm them up and tell them to come see us next week. So I said, all right, I'm gonna go down there. Usually I get off on 80, you go to the left where celebrities and all that was at. This one, you go to the right. There's about 2,000 people with hats on and everything, country, and it had a band. And when I got there, they were setting up the turntables and the guy goes, don't cut that record off. Don't do all that scratching here. And you could feel the energy. And then I was like, oh snap, this is like country, right? So I'm like, what am I gonna play? Because I didn't have a country repertoire at that time. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna play I Love Rock and Roll by Joan Jett. So played it. It was like, all right, now he's gonna come. Then I played We Will Rock You by Queen, and it was kind of like, all right, you know, that's like doing a Bay Area party. You're from back east, and you're like, Bay Area, you play Snoop, and everybody goes, all right. Then you play Ice Cube and Tupac, and people are like, okay, now, Bay Area now, let's go, right? So it was that moment. Then I played the Stray Cats, and I could see like the dudes in there was like, what the fuck? You know, like they're getting restless, like looking around, like somebody go talk to them. Then some girl goes, it's my birthday, it's my birthday. So I said, this one is for Julia. So I played a record for her. It was Baby Got Back, right? So it was like, all right, let them live, because it was for Julia. Then it was like, yo, what's going on? So I put on, not Achy Breaky Heart, Cupid Shuffle. Some whole crowd dancing like nobody's business, a line dance. They do that line dance stuff. And I end on a high note. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. We're gonna go back to the band. Let them get a drink. I did not try to play any more music, and I learned, like, them folks are dead serious. And if you're gonna do country, make sure you know your stuff. And they take their dancing serious. You know, get up there and start messing up on their line dances. It's the equivalent to messing up when you're doing, you know, you're dancing to Frankie Beverly or something, right? Or doing the cha-cha. People be, come on, man, come on. You can see them like, come on, man. Achy breaky heart, come on, get off the floor, right? So, shout out to the country folks. I can do a country party now. I got a good 10, 15 songs I can hang, but they serious. I don't really listen, you know? I turn off and I'm like, you know, I'll listen to talk radio or sports or something. Because it's, you know, you hear music so much, you have to kind of clear your palate. Otherwise, you're listening as a DJ. Oh, should I play that? Let me play. What record was that? You know, versus like, damn, that's just a really good song. Sure, if I'm driving around, I'll listen to, depends on what I'm in. Sometimes on the way over, I'll listen to house, right? I don't know if I'll play house today. Yesterday, I was listening to neo soul and all that new R&B stuff, right? Before that, it was cumbias, right? So it's all over, you know, the thing. And I just allow the music to take you on those journeys. It's a feeling. Because I don't know if you can just say attributes, because technically some records are poorly produced, but people like them. And the music is a form of expression. And that expression means something to an audience that you are speaking to. So I'll use this example. I remember when Too Short came out, Too Short didn't have the best produced product that was out there. And people from back east would show up like, who the hell is he? It's like he's the hometown hero, but he can't really rap. Well, he probably can, but he's doing something that sounds good in a car, right? And when you're riding, he's right in the pocket for those people that's riding. I remember when it all began. I used to say dirty rats for my East Side fan. They want to hear that. They don't want to hear him go, you know what I mean? So people didn't understand, but if you came out here, you're probably gonna need to, you know, understand the Bay Area, right? And you're gonna need, you know, more than just E40 and Too Short, but, you know, everybody from HPK on down to Kalani, you know, there's a whole culture here. And a bunch of artists that I don't even know, right? So I'm just naming off the obvious ones. But I just did a show today talking with the folks from DC, right? Because it's 50th anniversary of Go-Go. I was talking to those OGs, and they were saying, look, they were talking about all the artists, including Raphael Sadiq and everybody, when they came to DC, had to get a go-go guy in their band, right? And I was like, man, y'all made them check in like that? It wasn't, and he said, it wasn't like we was making them check in, but they understood if they wanted to get this DC crowd, black folks in DC, you better have some, you better have a go-go mix for them, right? And you don't really appreciate it until you're in DC and be like, oh, that makes sense. Just like people didn't understand hyphy. When I would go, I was like, I don't understand, you wearing sunglasses and what's all this stunner shades and all that, until they came to the Bay, and it was like, you go to LA and you hear, like a DJ Quick song and Kendrick and all that, it hits different when you're in that environment. With Nipsey, you'd be like, oh, okay, this is LA. And when you went down south, whether it's New Orleans with the bounce and you hear Big Frida, Big Frida, we're just shouting on the mic till you're in New Orleans and understand like that is an important backdrop, and that vibe and that sound is important. So I say all that to say that it's, what is trash to somebody is important to others. And I'm just trying to feel out a crowd and have fun, right? And sometimes because you're trying to have fun and not impose, you can introduce people to new things versus like, y'all should know this, man. This is that brand new KRS-One. It's 12 o'clock and we're at Hello Stranger, right? Look around the room, it's packed. I don't want to hear old school KRS-One. I don't want to hear my philosophy at Hello Stranger. Come with something else, right? And at the same time, you don't want to go to Rocksteady Crew event, or what was it, Rock the School Bells, or one of them Rock the Bells concert, and be like, you know what? Here you go. Let me play something that is just kind of, here's the Drake song. It ain't gonna cut it for people. And I'll say one other thing. This was a hard lesson learned. So remember when Kendrick had They Not Like Us? It was hidden. I did this party in Napa, right? And they had all these black college kids there. So I'm playing records. I put on, Not Like Us. And at this point, every time you play that record, people would scream and get on the floor. This time people were like, okay, I'll dance, but it was no excitement. It was like, huh? So I came back with Blow the Whistle. Still. Some girl goes, you got some good music? I'm like, what? Some King George, and start naming off all these records of Southern Soul, right? It's like, where you from? I'm from Alabama. Then I realized this whole crowd of black folks, nobody was from the Bay, right? So their thing was Breaker 1-9 and all this stuff out of Houston and all that. That was the stuff I put on King George. People in the Bay was like, what the hell is this? And this other crowd was like, they was getting busy. Now to us, that would have been like, what the hell? Sounds like some blues, country. But to them Alabama, Louisiana, Houston folks that were there, that was their butt, and you had to respect it, right? And it was also surprising to see that Kendrick at that time wasn't hitting the same way everywhere, right? That people were like, I like him. I mean, I seen his concert in Texas. It was great, but more people cheered for SZA than him in a very big way. Not like they disliked him, but it was like, we came to see SZA, and that just goes to show you, what we find great, other people be like, it's all right, but it ain't the thing I'm going to. I want to say what's up to everybody. I'm looking at you, you're looking at me. We're looking at the world around us. It's a crazy place. Whole lot of things going backwards, but we're moving forward. That's right, we're talking about all day play. FM, want you to tune in, want you to lock in, see your favorite DJs. I ain't one of them, but I'm here to endorse all the other ones that are there, and maybe you'll like a little something that I do. So, all day play FM. Peace, y'all.